Real estate donations can come with tax benefits for you and lasting value for KPFK. It's easy to start. Just visit kpfk.org/real estate or call 1-844-277-4663 and learn how your gift of property can make a meaningful difference.
Hey, my name is Ron Roget. I'm an actor from such shows as Matlock, Stranger Things, Power Rangers, and maybe a few more. You are listening to KPFK 90.7 FM, Los Angeles.
Welcome again to another episode of Cut to the Chase. Cut to the chase, because that's what we're going to do today. We're going to cut to the chase. We got I believe, a very interesting show today. We're going to hear an interview. The interview is with Dr. Cress Welsing and Dr. Alvan Fousand. This is an old interview. It was done back in what we call back in the day. It's an interview by Tony Brown on the Tony Brown's Journal. This was one of the few black talk shows on TV. It was pioneering. It was the only black show that dealt with topics that no one else would or could touch. Tony Brown's Journal. Cress Welsing and Dr. Alvan Fousand. The topic that they're talking about is black men, white women. The first part of this program will be part of that interview. Now, the second half will be joined by Makungu Akinyela, a therapist and author, to help break down what we are about to hear. And at that time, we'll open up the phones for your comments and questions, because this is going to be controversial to some of you. To others, you will understand. Now, the efforts to keep America white has taken many forms, you know. White nationalism or so-called white supremacy or just plain racism preceded this nation's 1776 celebration that they're about to have of so-called independence. And methods and strategies have changed, but the goal has been the same: to keep white men in power for their own financial and personal gains by dominating and exploiting others. So even though the methods to maintain power and control have varied, the purpose has always been the same: dominance. Now, today, by the way, is Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth, but I am sort of conflicted with that. Juneteenth is a celebration because some of the enslaved people in Texas did not know that the Civil War had been won and they were free. 2 weeks ago, we had a guest on talking about the Civil War was never ended. It just changed forms. You can go back in the archives and listen to that. So, you know, what is real freedom? So it's like when you have a basketball game. That was one battle. There's 7 games in the NBA playoff, but if you win one game, you haven't won the battle. It's still going on. A luta continua, as they said in South Africa. If you look at my T-shirt, we're on video right now. You can go to the KPFK website. And this is a T-shirt of, if you can hit that. This is a T-shirt. Oh, there we go. Back in the day, 1980. Victory is certain, a luta continua. Now, after that, some of the African nations got their so-called freedom. But are they really free? Are they really free? Because they don't have control of their way of life. They don't have control of their culture. They don't have control of economics, their existence. So that's how I view Juneteenth. It's a luta continua, the struggle continues. Now, I mentioned there's different forms of how we are controlled: psychological warfare, or just outright killing somebody. As you recall last week, we had Omali Shateli on the program. He has a program, the Uhuru Movement and the Black Socialist. But of course, that word socialist is a threat to the United States, because that means they don't have control. They don't control you. But anyway, this interview we're about to hear is, well, just listen to it. But first, I want to throw a question out to you. Herschel Walker, Clarence Thomas, Tim Scott, Kamala Harris, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, Candace Owens, what do they all have in common? And, well, then I want to speak about the interview. We'll open up the phones. We'll have our other guest. So we can go ahead and play the clip. This is an interview I said with Frances Cress Welsing and Tony Brown. By Tony Brown. You're listening to KPFK.
To begin with you, Sister Welsing, why do you believe, basically, black men are becoming so significantly attracted to white women, or is it vice versa?
I'd like to turn it around. I think, first of all, that white women are seeking black men first. Black men some are attracted to white women, and I don't think that we can understand this phenomena unless we understand really what is the larger dynamic that is occurring not only in this society but in the world at large. And the way that I look at that phenomena is that number one, we are living within the context of a system of white supremacy, which is my definition of racism. Racism is a worldwide system of white supremacy, domination, and control. And all of the behavior that we see all over the world, whether it's the behavior of the black woman, the white woman, the black man, or the white man, is occurring within the dynamics of this system. And we can understand what is happening as far as the white woman, black man relationship and why that is on the increase, I think, if we understand the need for the system to remain intact.
But Frances, you
Okay.
don't think that the black man has a special attraction toward the white woman?
Oh,
in
yes, he
America?
does. Yes, he does.
Why is
Because you
that?
Well, he has been programmed historically to feel that, first of all, this is the woman who is the woman in the world, and this is a thing that has been denied him, you know, in terms of, let's say, male-female relations or sexual partners. The black man, at least in this area of the world, has been told historically, you cannot you cannot touch this woman. And so at that level of social dynamic programming, yes, the black man has always felt, well, this is the one thing that I have been denied in this society. And so many black men, I think, at one level, they are moving towards white women as white women move. White women are the major aggressors in this situation. But the black man is playing his role because he says, well, this is a thing that I've been denied. This is the thing that is going to be the great equalizer.
I think, though, that the need has sort of been exaggerated, because if we look at those statistics you just mentioned, actually in the past decade, even with the increase, there's only about 43,000 black man, white woman marriages. That's a very, very tiny percentage. That means about 2% of black men are married to white women. Mm-hmm. Now, if we had accepted the propaganda, that is the white propaganda, that all black men desire a white woman and they want to marry your daughter, you would expect the incidence of the marriages to really be increasing at a much greater rate.
I was going to ask, does it mean that that the fact that if we accept the fact that black men do feel that white women are preferable to black women, are we saying that their behavior in the context of standard behavior is normal or abnormal?
Well, I don't like to use those terms. I would prefer to understand the phenomena. For example, if we start labeling behavior, like, for example, homosexuals don't like to be called pathological, for one thing. And I think that it is more useful if we say, well, let us try to understand the phenomena of homosexuality, as opposed to saying, well, now that's sick, and then people get turned off and they don't spend time trying to understand the dynamic. In the same way, I don't want to look at the phenomena of, cross-color sexual mating or marriage or whatever. And in terms of pathology, I would rather say, well, let's try to understand what actually is going on.
But you call the white woman the aggressor.
I say that she is aggressive because we live in the context of a white supremacy society in which white people are the dominant group. They are the people who control the power. We are the oppressed people. We are the people who are victims of that system. Just like, in terms of history, it was just a short 2 months ago in terms of the whole historical span that black men were being lynched for looking at a picture of a white woman. Do you see? And now we are told, well, now everything is opened up. Well, I want to understand, well, why is it that everything is opened up? I think everything is opened up since black men started talking about black power. You see, when black men start talking about black power, then that says, well, all right, maybe there will be a challenge to the system of white supremacy domination, not only in this area of the world, but all over the world. So the white supremacy system says, all right, well, now what do we do to, you know, get these people back in control? And what do we do to get them back in check? That is the black man. Well, we'll lay our ace trump card on them, which is a white woman.
In other words,
you see, which brings the
I
black
think
man then back within the context that the white supremacy system is going to work for you. See, we've denied you this, now you have it. But on close examination, in spite of all of the black-white marriages, the black-white sex that has occurred throughout history, in the last 500 years, there has been no serious tampering with the maintenance of white supremacy, certainly not through the bedroom activity. Do you see what I'm saying? But in other words, it throws people off balance.
So
in
the
other words,
the white woman is still, I think, in a position of psychological dominance. And
Right.
that, insofar as
Right.
she is, that's a form of white supremacy, and that the black men are frequently responding to her dominant position, the fact that she is considered a superior status object in the society. But getting back to this point,
Well, let me
about,
ask a question before
Yeah,
you
go
move to
ahead.
that. Then if we accept that, are we saying that the black men who marry white women are asking for dominance from a female?
no, the black men who are married by white women.
But
No,
the trend you continually
No, I think that they're looking for status.
the black men are looking
The
for
black
status.
men are looking for status whether they are aware of it or not. In other words, as long as you have white supremacy domination any place in the world, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Hawaii, whether it's Japan, any place, you name it, that as long as the people of color are the people who are oppressed, then when a marriage occurs, in other words, the dominator says, I will pick you amongst the victims who I dominate to marry you, then the victim says, oh goody, this means I'm in.
Well, that's true, but if I can ask this question.
Okay.
It seems, the way you are framing your analysis, that the almost total blame, if we can use that word, for interracial marriages is because of, one, white society vis-a-vis white supremacy,
Seeking to maintain itself.
and two, white women being the aggressors. You seem to be saying, and I'm asking a question, that black men are just blameless and they're sort of like the victims of something that they have no control over, or that they have no need to be married to a white woman for some perhaps pathological basis.
No, let's say, for example, if you set up the conditions for the development of a sadomasochistic relationship, then the masochist as well as the sadist is a part of that relationship, and they are playing roles that they have been conditioned to play. In other words, a person who is a masochist seeks out the sadist because then they could play their sort of dual game,
Mutual reciprocity.
their mutual reciprocity together. Now, within the dynamic of the system of white supremacy, you have, for example, many of the white women who are with black and other non-white men are actually, I believe, having a dialogue with white men.
How does that work?
See, the dialogue goes like this according to my analysis. First of all, the white women, we have the women's liberation movement, which is a dynamic of white females. Okay, they are asking for liberation out from under the white male. All right, now within the dynamic of the white supremacy culture, you also have penis envy. In other words, the white men have been perceived as being dominant over the woman. And so the woman says, well, I wish I had a penis. Okay, so what does she do? She says, well, I'll go out and get one that's supposed to be more powerful than yours, but I'm going to control it because we are white and we control all of the non-whites. So she goes out and she selects, and all this is unconscious, you know, activity, if you will. She goes out and selects a non-white male, be he black or any other non-white. Then she is walking down the street, or they can go to the, you know, justice of the peace or the priest to be married. And anytime a white man sees that, she is communicating to him, see, I've got one because I am in control of this.
But I don't think we can, you know, generalize to that extent. I think that that's a theory. But it's getting back to the question when we present arguments that way is whether the relationship between black men and white women are pathological. Now, Frances said she doesn't like to think of it in that framework, but the fact is that a lot of psychiatrists have presented or said that interracial relationships and marriage stem from a a type of negative psychological position or some type of pathology because of the racism in society. They'll say that the racism distorts people's minds so that frequently you'll get, say, a white woman attracted to a black man for the wrong reasons or for racist reasons. She may see him as inferior, that might turn her on, or she might see him as a black stud, that may turn her on. All of these are racist perspectives. Or the black man can get attracted to the white woman because she's supposed to be superior, and he wants to be part of that whiteness. In other words, she's sort of anointing him or helping him to feel a sense of self-worth by his involvement
Well, I wouldn't
with
argue
her.
with any of that.
But
yeah.
at the same time, I think that
let's look
we
at it
can't
this way.
say that this happens with everyone, and even if it does happen, that this is pathological. That
Well,
there's
let's look
lots
at it
of
this
things
way.
motivating
Let's
people.
say, for example, white men and white women have many difficulties in terms of marriage, all right? I mean, there's a lot of alienation that is going on just within the white group itself, within the whole total context of the white supremacy system. Black men and black women have serious problems in terms of the marital relationship. Now, either we say that all of these people are sick because of, various problems, or we can say, well, now let us look at the total behavioral phenomena that is occurring within a social system. Let's not bother to label it, but let's begin to understand what is happening. Do you see what I'm saying? Because there are many, many problems. I wouldn't want to say that I don't think it's useful. At one level, we can say, all right, these are pathological relationships, the problems that black men and black women have. Or we can say that the problems that white men and white women have are pathological. But
Or you
I don't
can say
think
the
that,
society is
see, because
pathological.
once you say pathological, then,
Which means sick.
which means sick, then people who can be helped by understanding the dynamic, they're turned off because they don't want to be labeled as sick, but they may want to understand the phenomenon.
Well, for purposes of analysis, let us assume.
Like, let's say everybody who comes to a psychiatrist doesn't want to be labeled as sick. They say, I have a problem. I don't understand how I am relating to this other individual and the product that we have that I don't want. Let me help me understand it so I can straighten it out. And this is where I'm coming from. I don't want to create a big
At the
thing
same
about
time, though, I think we can recognize certain things that, I don't know if we want to call them sick, but that are distorted. For instance, I've seen black men married to white women, and essentially they hate other black people, that they have sort of joined the oppressor and are actively anti-black. And
An expression of self-hatred.
Right.
That's
Now,
right. It's an
yeah.
expression of self-hate for them to marry a white woman.
But now
On the
look,
other
I
hand,
have
I
been-
see some
yeah.
black men who are married to white women who remain militantly black.
Well, couldn't
or
that
stay
be a
involved
defense
with the
mechanism?
black
But there's a
community.
contradiction.
But
still.
being militant, let's
Yeah.
deal with this. Some of our most revolutionary blacks have white women. Now, many blacks suspect, and it's an open secret, that their militance is simply a defense mechanism so that they can deal with their need for a white woman.
But look at it this way.
that might-
Many of those
Yeah, go
so-called
ahead.
militants who are married to white women, I think it's because of the way that they have defined the problem for themselves. Many black people who a white person will say, well, that person is militant because the person happens to be saying black power. They are not really talking about the overthrow of white supremacy. They're talking about workers of the world unite, maybe. Do you see what I'm saying? But because they are black, they're saying, well, okay, I'm saying in terms of a
You're
whole
saying they're talking
humanistic
integration, in
struggle.
other
They
words.
They
wanna
are
share in
talking,
the
right.
power.
Do you see what I'm
They
saying?
wanna
So
share
they
in the
don't,
power.
they
They're
don't
talking
perceive,
integration. I think
but they don't perceive a contradiction because the whole struggle of black people until recently has been defined as trying to get we want to become a part of the society as though it is possible for people of color to become a part of the society. Now, some black behavioral scientists are saying, on the basis of having made an analysis that the system is one of white supremacy, in which none of the non-white people in the entire world, who happen to make up 9/10 of the total world population, none of the non-white people can actually integrate into the system of white supremacy because it is just that, maintaining white supremacy. Okay, so now within that context, then some black people are rethinking the position in terms of, now, if I am talking about the overthrow of white supremacy as a system worldwide, then what does it mean for me to not only marry, but for me to have sexual relationships with a person who, whether they are willing or not, are participating in the maintenance of white supremacy? And some of us are taking the position that if a white person really says that they like a black person or a non-white person, then they will abstain from sex and they will abstain from marriage because they perceive also their position within the white supremacy context is as long as we have a system of white supremacy, then white people, when they relate to non-white people, are relating at a level of unequals.
But you're
and
saying,
until it's equalized, then something else is happening. Do you see what I'm saying? In other words, the non-white person who is in bed with a white person, thinking that they are bringing about a humanistic union, are really bringing about their further subjugation, because they are thinking in the act of sex that now we are one and now we are equal. And so when you find that those people who are in bed with white people, when they get out, like you said, they are negative, and you can make a diagnosis. If you see a black person being very, very negative when they are, you know, with other black people.
Are you saying this is in all cases? I mean, you're sort of making a political. Okay, but you're sort of making a political statement.
But you have to agree.
I'm saying that the act of sex is a political act.
Yeah.
Do you see? Just like
when
every
it's
other
between
act.
people of blacks and whites.
Every act is a political act, because when people relate, they are always relating on the basis of power. Do you see what I'm saying? Whether they are aware of that or not, you can never get away from that. And so even when people of different colors are relating, the question of power is brought into play. For example, the French, in terms of maintaining colonial domination in Africa, Arnold Toynbee has written about this, that they made it a policy, if the black man, you send him to the, the African who's in a colony, you give him a high school education and send him on to the university in Paris. He comes back and he says, all right, now I'm a Frenchman and I want to be free. I'm educated. I know as much as a colonizer. I want to be free. That you can cool him out by giving him a white woman. Do you see what I'm saying? And we see certain phenomena going on in the society today where black men who are married to white women are being given positions that black men who are not married to white women are not being given. Why? Because the white system perceives that that is a safe individual. Why? Because it is not only compromised in bed, but he is psychologically compromised. I mean, anytime you get in bed with somebody, sex is a very profound human act. And it has extreme psychological implications that spread into your, what do you do in the area of economics? What do you do in the area of entertainment?
Why do we assume, though, that if a black man goes to bed with a white woman, he has to be assuming that she's superior, or he has to feel that?
He doesn't have to. She is superior.
Yeah, but suppose in his relationship with her, does he have to feel that he's coming from the inferior position? What about...
She can take him anytime that she wants.
What about just the biology of it?
If she gets angry with him...
What about the biology of it? That is, that he's involved in a sexual union that doesn't have political dimensions or meaning. It
does have political
even
dimensions.
to him psychologically.
Well, maybe if I'm saying what Dr. Welsing is saying, maybe she's saying that that's not conscious, but the dynamic cannot be eliminated on a logical basis. I mean, on a conscious basis, you can't say that unconsciously my behavior is not determined by something that I'm not aware of.
Okay,
like a lot of people say,
well,
this is love.
You're assuming that all black men then got this feeling of inferiority in them.
All non-white people feel inferior. See what I'm saying? All non-white people who are within the system and the dynamic and the power of the system of white supremacy, until they consciously work and struggle with themselves, and even then, are going to feel inferior, because functionally we are inferior. Let's say you're a professor at Harvard, I'm a professor at Howard, physician, psychiatrist. I take the position that we are functional inferiors. In spite of that, even compared to the white person who has a grade school graduate degree. Why? Because within the political power system, they have more power to control what happens to their lives than you and I have to control in what happens to ours.
What about the fact that a lot of black men say that they are going with white women and so on because they're trying to get back at the system, or they're trying to get revenge, or this is really a hostile act, and it doesn't, in fact, that they see it as a confrontation with the white system, and not as something that they're succumbing to as an inferior person, that they're asserting, in a sense, their manhood, or saying they just have as much right to have a choice about the women that they want that white men used to have and still have. The white men can have white women, and they can have black women, they can have anybody they want. But black men were confined to black women, and they couldn't even have her when they wanted her.
Let's say this. Some black men say they're super fly. Some say they're shaft. Some say that they're super nigger and that they have power that they don't have. That's a fantasy. You see what I'm saying? We can say a lot of things. I can say, for example, I'm a psychiatrist and I'm free. Does that make it a case? No, it doesn't. The proof of what is it that I can do for myself? Can I protect my children? Can I protect anything that I call mine? The ultimate answer to that is no. So that we can say a lot of things. Black men can think that they're doing a lot of things. It was not black men who said that white women could come now into the black community and start picking up whatever black man they want. The black man didn't have anything to do with that. And if the white supremacy system tomorrow morning wants to turn it around and say all white women come home because it's essential to maintain white supremacy, all white women will go home.
But don't you think, Francis, that psychologically, if white women have been forbidden to black men by oppression, if the black man has access to the white woman, that will make him feel more psychologically free?
It will fool them more. Let's say, for example, if you tell me,
He
Francis,
said
you're
psychologically free.
well, that's not, well, wait a minute.
He didn't say functionally free.
No, it's a fantasy, and then it's a psychosis.
Is
Do you
that
see that?
What
right.
do you
In
mean
other
by
words, if you
psychosis?
are operating, just like they tell us in psychiatry,
That means a loss of contact
if you
with reality.
are functioning, if you are functioning on something that is not reality, then you've had it.
Well,
okay? Now, but this is something that the white supremacy system understands. You see what I'm saying? They understand. Well, now we programmed these victims to feel that if they get a white woman, they will have it. Like a black cat told me who was graduating from graduate school at Harvard, that marrying a white woman was a part of the Harvard degree. In other words, I'm really in. Do you see what I'm saying?
Part of
All right.
ascending upward in.
All right.
In the
Now,
system.
In
the
his mind.
system has
In his
programmed us
mind,
to
or-
think that. Just like it programs a black woman to say, all right, if you have a white man, that really means that you are in. Nonsense. Do you see what I'm saying? Because white supremacy is going on. And white supremacy will go on and victimize your children and your offspring, is irrespective of what you were doing in your bedroom
That's
activity.
true.
And the white supremacy system further would like the non-white and the black man to think that his phallus, or his penis, if you will, is equal to an M16 rifle, which is what he maintains power with.
But Francis, you don't think it's possible for a white woman and a black man to be involved in a relationship as individuals without all of this stuff?
No more than it is for a black man and a black woman to think that they have
You're
got.
saying all these things
We
are always
don't know.
going on.
In other words, when the black man and the black woman decide that they are in love, you know, all those feelings that we call love. What we call love is just that historic programming, you know, what parent we were tied to and whatever dynamic was going on, and then we go and pick somebody who turns on those same feelings. And we call those feelings love. But that doesn't, just because we call it love and then glorify it, doesn't mean that we cannot understand how those feelings got programmed in that way. And so a black man and a black woman, particular people who've had particular experiences, meet on a sunny day and they say, we are in love and we want to go off and get married. As though white supremacy as a major dynamic in the world has disappeared. Oh no.
But we don't have proof that most black men are programmed that way.
Do we have 9/10 of the people in the world controlled by white
That's
supremacy?
true, but we don't have proof
Well, wait
that
a
the
minute.
black
What does that
man
mean?
is programmed.
What does that mean?
That is, we don't have the statistics to validate black men all wanting to rush after white women.
Wait a minute. Look at. Let's be honest. If we look at what is the dynamic that goes on in the so-called black community, or more amongst black people, what is still, you know, in the quiet recesses of our thinking, what is considered as beautiful? Still light skin and still straight hair. Well, what does that mean? See, that just means that the black mother who trained her son, you know, I have a friend who says that his mother programmed him down in Oklahoma, you know, just looking out the front porch. To the girl, black girl who was light-skinned, straight-haired, there's a beautiful girl. To the black-skinned girl with the kinky hair, she wouldn't say anything. Do you see what I'm saying? So that kind of programming, this is what I'm saying, that all of this goes
Gets
on.
involved in love.
All of this goes in, is involved in love, who is a suitable choice, what kind of woman does a professional man marry. You see, you can just survey. All we have to do is look at the phenomena of the social laboratory.
Yeah, that's true.
And say, well, who are the people that particular people pick to marry? And we can understand that the dynamic of white supremacy is intact even when a black man and black woman are in bed. I've talked to black men who say when they're in bed with black women, they're thinking about Doris Day.
Oh, really?
I mean, well, see,
But Dr. Fousand, you must admit, that there are some
this
black
is
men
nothing to be ashamed of. We have got to stop being
who
ashamed
exclusively
of
don't
truth.
like any female who is not white. Now, I'm sure that you would have to have one constant, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
if a man who is black doesn't even look at a black woman and looks at nothing but white women, and then isn't that significant? I mean,
Yeah, I
wouldn't
think,
that be significant
I
enough to
think
be
that,
a
sure, I think that's
non-generalization?
significant, but see, I don't know if we can relate it all as clearly to sort of political, the white supremacy.
but
For instance,
okay.
let me take it down to a personal level. Suppose something is operating like the black man and his relationship to his black mother or to his black father, where he develops blocks against black women, and then he generalizes it all to other black women, and then he gets involved with a white woman. Now, that doesn't mean that he's necessarily indulging in any form of white supremacy necessarily.
He's not
That is,
indulging in white supremacy.
you can't assume that
He's
his
indulging in
rejection of his black mother is because she's black. He may be rejecting her for all sorts of other psychological reasons.
Let's go down and look at that. Let us look
and
at
that the white woman is just happens to be
Well, wait a
there
minute.
where he
See,
can
but this is
arm.
very common phenomena amongst our people.
Okay. That was an interview with Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and another brother. Let me get my notes. I've been all over the place here, editing as we speak. Are we on Zoom? Do we have a good? Okay, there he is. Yes. So bring him in. We have a guest with us also. Could you run that music for a second? We will not comply. This is by Mau Mau Rising. Mau Mau Rising is the name of a group. Actually, I'm part of that group. If you know the Mau Mau, they were Kenyans who rose up against the British because they were being oppressed. And of course, the British, and they beat the British down, okay? So pretty bad. And so that is Mau Mau Rising. Once we get it. Let's do this. Let's go to clip one. How about Malcolm X? The first clip. So I played that because right now we're in a crazy situation, but it's not different than what's been going on. Racism is around the world and is being used to control folks. And what I found out is that the dynamic of integration or mixing the races, like Malcolm said, Malcolm has a little analogy. He says, if you get a cup of coffee, it's black and strong, but once you start putting cream in it, it weakens the coffee. So they mentioned that in their interview about how to, take the radical out of the man. Now, at the beginning of the show, I said, what do Herschel Walker, Clarence Thomas, Tim Scott, Kamala Harris, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, and Candace Owens? Maybe I'll let one of the callers answer that. So that's another dynamic of this thing. So what, I'm just rambling on, excuse me. Another dynamic is well, let me just say this. A great movie, not a movie, it's a short series on Netflix. It's called Colin in Black and White. It's about Colin Kaepernick, the football player. It's an excellent short documentary that he produced. And it shows his story, and this is really, really interesting. So if you have Netflix, I don't subscribe anymore. But be sure to watch Colin in Black and White. And I've also heard black mothers say that some black mothers told me, black daughters said their mothers told them to marry white because, you need a white man. So that's what they're talking about. This is not just anti-this or anti-that. It's the dynamics of white so-called supremacy channeling the world to make you think that you are better or inferior to somebody. So that's what we're looking at. This is Mau Mau Rising in the background. You can bring it down just a little bit. Let's bring in Dr. Makungu Akinyela. He is can you go on camera, Makungu? Yeah, there he is. What's going on, brother?
Hey, brother, how you doing?
Blessings. Did you hear that first part of the interview?
I did.
Yeah. So, Makungu, tell them who you are, what you do. You're a therapist, correct?
I am. I'm a family therapist. I'm in practice here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm also a professor in the Department of Africana Studies and the director of graduate studies in Africana Studies at Georgia State University. I'm the author of two books and several journal articles and book chapters. My most recent book is called Testimony Therapy: Decolonizing Mental Health for Black Therapists and Clients. You can get that anywhere you get your favorite books.
So it's declining the therapist, not the patient. Is that what you're
Right?
saying?
It's Testimony Therapy: Decolonizing Mental Health for Black Therapists and Clients. In other words,
And
taking the
clients. Okay.
whiteness out of our mental health treatment.
Right. So give me your thoughts quickly on what you just heard, Francis Cress Welsing.
Um, it's I miss those kinds of shows like Tony Brown had, first of all, where you had important Black intellectuals and activists actually dialoguing and cutting up. I think it really it was important to the critical thinking of our movement and our community. First of all, that's the first thing. Those old Tony Brown conversations are always amazing. Um, and I think that it's a question that we have to always look at. The question of, you know, there's this old saying that the personal is political. A lot of people would say who you happen to sleep with or whatever is irrelevant, but it's political. And I think that's the thing that Dr. Welsing was trying to promote and say, is that it's not just a personal choice. Um, she was a psychiatrist who came out of psychodynamic and practice. And so I wouldn't agree with everything she says in terms of the idea of the importance of the subconscious and the unconscious as much. But I think a lot of the things she says are things that we still need to consider. The question is, why do people make the choices they make? Are they just innocent choices of biology and love, or are there cultural and political motivations behind how people even make choices for their partners?
Well, let me just say this. There's a lot. I think that movie that I ask people to check out, Colin in Black and White. Colin, of course, is the football player who took a knee because he was protesting
Mm-hmm.
peacefully police shootings of black people.
Mm-hmm.
And he's of mixed race. But growing up, it's so dynamic of how he grew up. He grew up with a white family. And to
Mm-hmm.
watch that just breaks it down. See, a lot of people don't understand what we went through, we being people of melanated hue,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how much melanin you have in you. Matter of fact, what happened, like I mentioned in South America, on one of these shows on Cut to the Chase, we had a person say, "Oh, especially and specifically in South America, Mary, her grandmother said, you need to marry white, light, don't
Mm-hmm.
marry dark." And there's been in the fairy tale, in the stories, everything says you are not, you are lesser. So
Mm-hmm.
that might go into your subconscious. As a therapist, do you think that goes into your subconscious? You are the beautiful, the ugly black duckling turns into what? The
The swan.
beautiful white swan. There's the cartoons. If you look at the
Mm-hmm.
cartoons, if you look at Tarzan, everything was, black. Matter of fact, on this program also, when we talked about the Nation of Islam and how they got their name, they say in their paper that the original Asiatic black man. They
Mm-hmm.
chose Asiatic because at that time Africa
Mm-hmm.
was bad. Oh, you African.
Mm-hmm.
So they that whole psychological 250 plus years
Mm-hmm.
of brainwashing did that to us. Go ahead, comment on that. Now, 818-985-5735, hit option one. We have a new phone system. I'd love to hear some from some of you.
Yeah, so I think at the top of this conversation, what's important to say, because I think it's a persistent myth that since most of this was around the question of black men, the vast majority of married black men marry black women. The vast majority of high earning income black men marry black women, over 83% in both cases.
But Makunga, why do we? That's okay. I like those statistics, but at the same time, when you see high profile people,
Mhm.
like I said, what's the Herschel Walker, Clarence Thomas, Tim Scott, Kamala
And
Harris?
once again,
They all have white
that
spouses.
was a part of what I said. It's an important thing to talk about, but the vast majority of even high profile, high earning, and I'll say black men and even fewer black women marry outside of our nation, of our people, right? So it's an important conversation, but it's important also that we don't lift this up to some crises where all
Right,
black
right.
folk are beginning to do this.
Yeah.
It's a particular issue. Yes, and we can be curious as to why, right? But let's not act as if this is a thing where it's destroying, for instance, our people as a whole.
Well, I
I
don't.
think it's important to keep that in mind.
That's a good point, but I don't think it's a crisis to us. I think it's a crisis to the white person. Being because Frances Cress talks about the color confrontation, and what she says is the white person is not multiplying as much. So you have people like Elon Musk
Hmm.
saying we need to bring more white people here because we're being
Hmm.
outnumbered. So to them, it's a threat. To us,
Hmm.
I think if you look historically, I don't have any statistics that we accept interracial marriages more than white folks. They say, "Oh hell no! You've been ostracized from your family,"
If
because they want to keep it pure. The race was Hitler.
Mhm.
He wanted a pure Aryan race.
If
So
I understood Dr. Kress correctly,
mhm.
and Cress Welsing, if I understood her correctly, and I think I agree with her, even white supremacy and white nationalism takes different roles. There's no
Yes,
monolithic approach to it.
thank
So
you.
you might have people like an Elon Musk or the white purist who want to eliminate black people and blackness. And so they would be opposed to that. But if I understand her correctly, she would argue that there's another approach to white supremacy and white domination, which is seeking to gain power over by sexually dominating, in their discussion, black men,
Yes,
right?
to
By
make them.
by diluting the political direction and commitment of those black people to black people. Uh,
Yes,
and there's, so if I understand her correctly, then there's no even absolute path to white supremacy. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
it makes big sense. Malcolm talks about that. Let's play a clip by Malcolm X. We have an audio clip of Malcolm X. We can play the first clip. He has an analogy, like I said, about the coffee. But this one, he talks about integration and separation.
Hmm.
Hit it when you can.
Malcolm X, the minister of the black Muslim community in New York and national representative of Elijah Muhammad, the spiritual leader of the black Muslim movement. Mr. Malcolm, may I ask you to tell us something about the black Muslim movement
Okay,
in America?
let's go to the next
What
clip
is it?
because
What
that
does it
one,
stand
I thought I edited that one out, but maybe I didn't.
Hmm.
Any effort we made to demonstrate toward integration, why, we would know the law should be on our side, if it's the law of the land. If it is the law of the land, then the demonstrators are within the law, and the discriminators are against the law. But to show you the hypocrisy of the law, when Negroes demonstrate for integration, instead of arresting the discriminators, the law arrests the demonstrators. So this is a foolish move on the part of Negroes.
So he talked
And
about
when you
integration and
push-
segregation a lot. He's
Hmm.
basically saying that he's saying, and then he talks about separation. I think I was queuing up the last minute. The last one he said integration is different than separation. Integration is when you have control, and that's what we see now: control of our communities and the international dynamics of everything. That's what's going on. You see, this is Juneteenth, but you
Hmm.
still see a black baby, I think 1 year old, got shot.
In Mississippi.
Yes, got shot. And like I said, 2 weeks ago, we had the Civil War is not over, so it's still going on. 818-985-5735. We're talking to Makungu Akinyela.
Akinyela, there you go.
Hey, hey.
I'm the other one.
Yeah, we have a partner who's named Akinyele, so he always chastises me. Say, I'm not. They've both been on the show, both dynamic brothers. So today, what we see is black faces in high places.
Hmm.
You want to talk about that? So I named those people out. What happened was, I think it was the Democrats first. They said, let's get people, push them up there with our agenda,
Hmm.
and they lied. Like, for instance, I'm going to say who lied. Of course, they pulled out Herschel Walker, of all people, to run for a seat in Georgia.
Hmm.
Of course, Clarence Thomas, who I think you would call that self-hatred. Tim Scott all have white spouses. Kamala Harris, and they lie. Kamala Harris said, "Oh, we're fighting hard to get a ceasefire in Iran. All you got to do is stop the money." So they're lying, just like Trump is lying right now. They're lying because they want money and power and to keep that white supremacist status in power. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, I have nothing negative to say about her. She's doing the right thing. And Candace Owens, oh my God. She said, she got into the thing, I'd be afraid if I got on the plane as a black pilot because they might not be qualified. Speak on these high celebrities.
But I think it would be dangerous though to conflate the issue of those people having white partners to their politics. I think oftentimes them having white partners is a symptom of their problem, right? Um, you know, Candace Owens is a committed black white supremacist.
I
Right?
like that. Committed black white supremacist.
She's a
That's
committed
true.
white supremacist.
Yes.
So same thing with Herschel Walker. And it plays out in who we see them partnering with. Same with Clarence Thomas. On the other hand, and see, this is where this is a problematic conversation for us. As you said, I don't have anything bad to say about the Justice Ketanji, right? She every time in all her political actions, she seems to care about the outcomes of the community. Same thing, even I would say even the same generally with Kamala.
Also, the other justice who's
right now, the difference is I have a different politic with those people. Their philosophies are focused on integration. I believe in black power. I believe that black people should have self-determination, and our solutions are not integrating into a decaying democratic capitalist system. All right. But that's different than those committed white supremacists. It gets even more complicated. A lot of my work is grounded in the work of Frantz Fanon, who I think was probably the most revolutionary person of the 20th century. Frantz Fanon was committed to being married to white women, it seems. Right? Which is a mystery. Right?
That's it. You said France because France, in the book by Walter Rodney, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, he speaks about how great the French were in making black people Frenchmen. Also, Toussaint Louverture.
And they were the worst of white supremacists.
Yes, but I would
colonizers.
I think what you said was very important. You said black white nationalists. I think there's also black white imperialists, which I would then put these other people under. They're not necessarily white supremacy. That's like Toussaint Louverture. He wanted to be.
They're committed. A lot of those people that you mentioned from the Democratic Party are politically committed to the politics of the Democratic Party, which is neoliberalism. Right? They're committed to moving forward the capitalist agenda, the neoliberal agenda, which within it is integration. Okay, so that's a big part of it. For me, those questions are much more important than who they choose to sleep with. I think who they choose to sleep with in many ways may be a symptom of their political direction, but that's not the most significant thing because, as I said, the vast majority of black people, even black people with money or power, don't choose to have white partners.
Yeah, and I see that. I think what Francis is saying though is that everything plays a part. There used to be the brown bag test. When you go to a party, you put up a brown bag, and if you were darker than that brown bag,
couldn't get in.
You're not allowed in the party. Let's just take a quick caller, real quick. Kamal is on line 1 on our new phone system, first time. Hey, Kamal, welcome. Question for brother Makungu, or comment?
Yes, free the land. How you doing, brother?
Free the land.
Free the land. Free the land.
Yes, sir. First, a shout out to the ancestors as usual, and unfortunately, Francis is among them, and of course, Tony Brown's Black Journal. He's gone too, but that was a fantastic show. My compliments to Youth Life for this schooling you're doing here. You need a 2-hour show. Now, first back to Makungu, who was a comrade. I first met him, I believe, back at the Center for Black Survival.
Oh, you go
in
way
LA.
back.
Oh, this is another old person.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And of course, I moved to Atlanta too to join the comrades that moved there to work. So again, I want to give you a shout out there. My question for you is, what's the best path for liberation, for self-determination for Black folks? And thanks for that shout out to Fousand. He's the man. He's the man. Free the land.
Free land. Oh, he's asking a personal question. My personal politics, and I know that's not why Sylvester invited me on here, would be, as I said, I believe that the primary problem for Black people and other oppressed people right now is the remnants of settler colonialism. And until we correct that problem, the fact that our nations were invaded 500 years ago beginning and colonized by European developing capitalists at that time and supreme capitalists at this time, that until we resolve that contradiction, until we as Africans, whether we are in Africa or here in the West, have self-determination, the ability to determine our own political direction, and the right to even discuss that amongst ourselves without interference, that we won't have any freedom, that will always be on someone else's agenda, whether it's neoliberal capitalism and integration, which is the program of the Democratic Party, or genocide and absolute white supremacy, which is the program of the Republican Party. Both of those solutions leave us out and leave our ability to determine our own directions out. So I would argue that the political demand for us at this point is self-determination. And then if I were to take it personally, I would say the dissolution of capitalism and the development of a democratic economy, socialism for our people. But again, that's up to the people to decide. That's not up to me. But since you asked my personal thoughts, I thought I'd put it out there.
I like those comments. Thanks. We're going to go. Hold on, one Harold. Harold's, is that his name? Hold on one second, Harold from Santa Barbara. Because what you said was very important. The control of what you do. And after the Civil War, and even today, they make sure all these wars are fought because somebody wants to control their own destiny. Mm-hmm. Trump had the nerve to say, I think I mentioned it earlier on the program, that they need to behave, they being Iran. Mm-hmm. Cuba, if you listen to the show earlier today, they talked about Cuba. Why is Cuba, why are you attacking them? Because you can't control them. Once you become independent, you're a threat, which is ridiculous. So you kill babies and you talk about how bad you are. You talk about Cuba without talking about the blockade you had for over 70 years. You talk about how bad Iran is without talking about how you have sanctions on them killing and how the Mossad went in there among the demonstrators and start shooting at the police. You don't talk about that. People on all these programs say, oh, in Ukraine, a white nationalist state, a puppet state of America, that you don't talk about how the United States set them up to be attacked so then they could justify a war on. I'm sorry, did I get off track? Go ahead. I just wanted to bring these points in. Let's have Harold. Harold from Santa Barbara asked a question to Makungu.
Yes, I have two questions. The first question is, Dr. Julio Espinoza of UCR made the statement that a white person will never understand racism. And then my next question is, I was also told many times that if you married a white woman, you're bettering the race. Well, I'm Chicano, but I'm a light-complected Chicano. But more importantly, I'm glad you all mentioned about age because I have to join your club, and I do miss that show.
Hey, Harold, that's important because, see, the same thing is going on in the Latino community. When I was in Cuba, we had a whole seminar on racism. But the difference was they were trying to solve the problem. They understood. And it was more to me like colorism. the lighter you were, the better you were, Mary Light, because that's how we were brainwashed. But anyway, go ahead and answer his question, Makunga.
Brother, can you ask again? If you had a question, can you ask again?
Yeah, what's some
Yes. From Dr. Julio Espinosa made the statement that white people will never understand racism.
I can appreciate that. I mean, how can, when you're outside of a system and when you're benefiting from it, how can you ultimately understand the impact that it's having on the people that it's targeted against? At the same time, we know that I say, we have people in the spirit of John Brown and Marilyn Buck
yes,
who, even if they don't
Tim
say
Weiss,
it,
contemporary.
right, who are willing to take the leadership of we colonized people and to support our struggle. So that becomes important. And I think, again, I think that that's the distinction. Even conversations like this, I think that following the best traditions of our revolutionary peoples from our colonized nations, that we not fall into the trap that our oppressors have created of reducing ourselves to having only a racialized analysis, right? As opposed to a national analysis, and that it's not just about somebody's biology, which makes them good or bad. It's their social context and their social condition, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
It does perfectly, and that's what he was mentioning was in his class of race and racism, he was making it very clear. He said white person, but though that does not determine your outlook or your analysis of a situation. So your examples are perfect for that. And that's what he was trying to explain to us is you have to think, what's the comment? You have to think outside the box. This would be back in 69, 70.
Okay.
And, I love your question. And there are some white people who get it. Most don't. But there are a few. When Steve Biko had his revolutionary, Steve Biko, of course, South African, who were fighting against apartheid, he said white folks could support us, but they can't be in our movement. And there's a lot of white supporters who get it, but most don't because they want that white privilege. And also that goes with black people. They don't want anything to change because they're comfortable. I always say that on this program. Well, I'm comfortable. What y'all doing? I got my 2-car garage, 3.2 kids, job with benefits. I'm good. Elaine in Los Angeles. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Hi, you're on the air. Cut to the chase.
Oh, great. This is Elaine. I just wanted to comment that I think the biggest problem we have is that we don't know who we are.
Yes.
Yes. We come from a people that had sunshine, rain, vegetation, animal life. And so they didn't need a whole lot and continue to develop on a spiritual level. Whereas people from the ice, the cold, and very few things to consume, they became a warring people. And they understand when children are born, those children who are of African descent are stronger.
Okay, wrap it. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so wrap it up so he can comment, and I'll make my last comments. Go ahead. Y'all have to call in earlier. Y'all have to call in earlier. Y'all wait till the last minute to call in. Go ahead.
But absolutely, I think it's important that we know ourselves. In fact, we mentioned earlier in my latest book, Testimony Therapy, Decolonizing Mental Health for Black Therapists and Clients, I've got a whole chapter committed to the thing of knowing yourself and really connecting with yourself. So I appreciate what you're saying, sister.
And of course, that's trying to be railroaded. I'm not African, I'm indigenous. Indigenous to who? Indigenous to what? But if you look at Van Sertima's work, they came before Columbus. We sailed everywhere. So yes, we were here in the Americas. But then when they started, it was religious intolerance. But that sort of morphed to racial intolerance because it was easier to identify your enemy if he has darker skin. And you could read that in Dr. Gerald Horne's books. wrap it up for us, man. We're basically out of time.
Well, first of all, Sylvester, thanks for inviting me on. It's always good to get a reconnection to my old hometown, LA, in California, from way down here in the Neo Confederacy in Georgia. But again, I think that again, this is an important conversation. I think that we need to revive those great intellectual conversations in the way they used to be done with people like Tony Brown, where we talk about these important issues. I think it's also important for us not to mistake the symptom, which might be people
10
choosing
seconds, man.
partners they have to not. And again, go out and find that book, Testimony Therapy, Decolonizing Mental Health for Black Therapists and Clients, if you want to know more about what I'm thinking these days.
All right, this is Cut to the Chase. My name is Sylvester Rivers. We might continue this next week with the second half of that interview. I'll think about it. See you.
Excellent.
KPFK 90.7 FM, Los Angeles.
Trump wrecks the economy with war.